entire interconnected civilization. 5 empires, thousands of miles of trade routes, palaces stacked with gold, collapsed in less than 50 years, and to this day, nobody can tell you exactly who did it. Not historians, not archaeologists, not the ancient Egyptians who wrote about it in a panic while it was happening. They just called them the peoples of the sea and left it at that. Imagine the fall of Rome. But you don't know who the barbarians were, where they came from, or where they went afterward. That's what we're dealing with today. So, grab a seat, because this is one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in human history. And it starts with a world you probably didn't know existed. Picture the Mediterranean around 1250 BCE. This is not a scattering of isolated tribes banging rocks together. This is a genuinely globalized world, 3,000 years before we think globalization was invented. You've got Egypt under the pharaohs, wealthy beyond imagination. You've got the Hittite Empire ruling out of central Anatolia, a military superpower that fought Egypt to a standstill. You've got Mycenaean Greece, the world of Agamemnon and golden death masks. You've got Cyprus mining copper, Canaanite city-states running trade posts, and Babylon and Assyria watching from the east. And here's the part that should blow your mind. These guys were writing to each other. Diplomatic letters, royal marriages, trade agreements, complaint emails basically, all preserved on clay tablets. One pharaoh writes to a Babylonian king complaining his gold shipment showed up light. That's how connected this was. Bronze, the defining technology of the era, required tin and copper from completely different corners of the map, which meant every single kingdom needed everyone else just to keep their swords sharp and their economy running. It was rich, it was fragile, and it was about to be tested by something nobody saw coming, because a system that depends on everyone staying friendly and everyone staying fed has exactly one weakness. And that weakness was about to walk right through the front door. Here's where it gets crazy. Starting around 1200 BCE, the letters change tone. They go from "let's discuss trade tariffs" to something closer to a group chat during a natural disaster. A king of Ugarit, a wealthy trading city on the Syrian coast, writes to Cyprus, and it's genuinely chilling. He says enemy ships have been sighted burning towns. He says his own army and fleet are away fighting somewhere else, so his cities are completely undefended. He's basically live texting his own doom, and this wasn't an isolated incident. Letters like this start popping up everywhere, all around the same narrow window of time. Cities that had stood for centuries, cities that show up in Homer, cities whose ruins still contain thick black layers of ash from being burned to the ground. They all seem to fall apart within a generation or two of each other. So, who is doing this? Egyptian records start naming groups with names that sound almost like a fantasy novel roster. The Sherden, the Peliset, the Luca, the Denyen, the Ekwesh. Some scholars think these might be early Philistines, maybe displaced Mycenaean Greeks, maybe raiders from Sardinia or Sicily, maybe a chaotic alliance of refugees, pirates, and mercenaries banding together because their own homelands were already falling apart. Nobody agrees. And that's the maddening thing. Even the people living through it don't seem totally sure who they're fighting. But whoever they weren't just raiding. They were moving like a wave. And that wave was about to swallow some of the most powerful kingdoms on Earth. This is where the dominoes start falling, and it happens fast. The Hittite Empire, a military machine that had gone toe-to-toe with Ramesses the Great himself, just disappears. Their capital, Hattusa, is abandoned and burned. One of the most powerful empires in the ancient world, gone within a matter of years. And archaeologists still argue about exactly how. Ugarit, that wealthy trading hub we just talked about, destroyed so suddenly that archaeologists found ovens with bread still baking in them and clay tablets still unfired, sitting in a kiln, never even sent. That's not a slow decline. That's a city that expected to see tomorrow and didn't get one. Mycenaean Greece, the shining Bronze Age palaces of legend, the ones that inspired Homer centuries later. Their great citadels burn too, and Greece tumbles into what historians literally call a dark age. Writing itself is lost for hundreds of years. Cyprus gets hit. Canaanite cities along the coast get hit. It's like watching a string of lights go out one by one down an entire coastline, and nobody left behind can fully explain why. But there was one empire still standing at the edge of this storm, the richest prize of all, and it was about to face the fight of its life. Egypt had already survived one wave of this chaos under Ramesses the Great's successor. But the real test comes under Pharaoh Ramesses III, and what he leaves behind is basically the only detailed eyewitness account we have of the entire catastrophe. Carved into the walls of his mortuary temple at Medinet Habu, in stone that still stands today, Ramesses describes an apocalyptic threat, and I mean he does not undersell it. He writes that no land could stand before these invaders. Not the Hittites, not Cyprus, not anyone. He says they came as a coalition, moving by land and by sea, with entire families and belongings loaded onto ox carts. Like this wasn't just an army, it was a migration looking for somewhere new to live. And Egypt somehow wins. Ramesses claims a decisive victory in a great land battle and a genuinely bizarre naval battle where Egyptian archers trap enemy ships near the Nile Delta and just annihilate them from the shore and from their own vessels. The carvings show capsized ships, drowning warriors, chaos on the water. Egypt survives when almost nobody else did. But here's the twist. Nobody talks about enough. Winning didn't actually save them. The victory bled Egypt dry. The economy limped. Royal power that had lasted for centuries starts crumbling within a few generations. Egypt survived the storm, technically, but it walked out the other side into a completely different, diminished world. And the people who caused all this, the ones who just torched half the eastern Mediterranean, they basically vanish from the record like smoke. And this is genuinely the wildest part of the whole story. After Medinet Habu, after this massive empire ending world-reshaping collision. The Sea Peoples just stopped being mentioned. No triumphant homeland. No later kingdom proudly claiming, "Yeah, that was us." Some scholars think fragments of them settled down and became the Philistines of the Bible, living along the coast of what's now Israel and Gaza. Some think other groups scattered into Sardinia, Sicily, and Italy, quietly folding into populations that would later shape the Mediterranean world in totally different ways. But there's no smoking gun, no city ruins with a sign saying the Sea People Capital. They may not have even been one single people at all. Maybe they were a shifting, desperate coalition of refugees, farmers, sailors, and mercenaries from a dozen different collapsing societies, banding together because the alternative was starving, which honestly might be the most unsettling answer of all. It wasn't a nation invading. It might have been an entire civilization's worth of displaced, desperate people crashing into whatever was left standing, and the collision brought the whole interconnected Bronze Age world down with it, like pulling one card out of a very tall, very interlocking house of cards. And maybe that's the real lesson buried in all this ash and silence. That even the most powerful, wealthy, deeply connected civilizations are only ever a few bad years away from collapsing into each other. And sometimes the people who deliver the final blow don't even get remembered as themselves, just as a rumor, a shadow. 3,000 years of question marks. If you want to go deeper down this rabbit hole, the definitive book on this whole collapse is 1177 BC, The Year Civilization Collapsed, by Eric H. Cline. It's the most accessible, gripping deep dive into exactly what we just covered, and the link is in the description below. Thank you so much for sticking around till the end of this one. If you enjoyed it, do me a favor and subscribe. Drop a like, and let me know in the comments who you think the Sea Peoples actually were. I read every single one. We'll see you in the next one.